It was supposed to be the perfect wedding. My sister Claire had dreamed of this day for as long as I could remember. A lakeside resort in Vermont, flowers everywhere, and a guest list packed with people who'd been important to her throughout her life. Even I was invited. And that alone felt like a gift. I've always been the one on the sidelines. The quiet, introverted sister who never seemed to get the same attention as Claire. She was beautiful, confident, always the center of attention. I was, well, the one who kept to myself. But this wedding, it was supposed to be my chance to shine. My chance to feel like I was a part of the family, to finally be seen. I had always stood in her shadow, and maybe, just maybe, this day would change things. When I first received the invitation, my heart fluttered with excitement. After all, weddings are a big deal, especially for someone like me, who had never truly felt like I belonged. My parents had always adored Claire, and while they loved me too, it was clear that their admiration for her was of a different caliber. This wedding would be my chance to finally prove that I mattered. But then, something happened that I wasn't expecting. As the wedding day approached, I received a strange phone call from my mother. It wasn't the kind of phone call I'd expect before such an important day. There was a certain tension in her voice that I couldn't place. "Nicole, honey," she started, "we're so excited for the wedding. But I'm going to need you to do something for us." She paused for a moment, and I could hear the anxiety creeping into her words. "Of course, Mom. Anything." There was a long silence before she replied. "It's about the seating arrangements. You're going to be sitting, well, outside the main hall. We don't have enough space inside, so we need to put you in the hallway area. It's just for the ceremony and the reception, nothing permanent." A chill ran down my spine. "What?" I stammered, trying to process what she was saying. "You'll still be at the wedding, dear. It's just the seating inside is limited. We had to prioritize a few other people, you know." I tried to mask my shock, but the words felt like a slap. Claire's friends, Claire's coworkers, even distant relatives, everyone got an inside seat at the wedding, except for me. The daughter, the one who had always been there, supporting Claire in every possible way, putting my own needs aside to make sure she had everything she wanted. This was supposed to be my moment, and it was slipping away before my eyes. Still, I told myself it didn't matter. It was just a seat, after all. But deep down, I could feel the sting of rejection. On the day of the wedding, I drove up to the resort with a mix of excitement and dread swirling inside me. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw the towering gates of the estate, the flowers lining the entrance, and the guests milling around, laughing and taking photos. I smiled and waved at a few familiar faces, but there was something in the air that felt off. Maybe it was the tension that had been building ever since my conversation with my mom. I entered the venue, greeted by a staff member who showed me to the reception desk. When I told the woman my name, she smiled politely and flipped through the list of guests. But when her eyes landed on my name, her smile faltered, and she looked up at me with a strange expression. Yes," she said, her voice faltering. "You'll be sitting in the hallway area. Right this way." My heart sank, but I followed her nonetheless. I wasn't going to let this ruin my sister's big day. After all, it wasn't her fault. But as I walked past the main ballroom, where the glistening chandeliers hung and the guests were already gathering, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of isolation. Claire was inside, Mom and Dad were inside, but I was left to stand in the hallway, alone. I walked through the large oak doors of the main hall, my heels echoing on the polished marble floor. The sound of laughter, clinking glasses, and soft music filled the air, but it all felt distant, like I was listening from a different world. My heart beat faster as I tried to shake off the feeling of being invisible. The staff member who had escorted me to the hallway area stopped and gestured towards the back. "Here you go," she said, her voice chipper, as if she was showing me a prime seat at the banquet table. I didn't respond, I just nodded quietly and turned away. The hallway area was tucked away just outside the grand ballroom. It wasn't exactly what I had imagined for myself. There were no glittering chandeliers, no elegant table settings, no lively conversation. Just a few rows of chairs tucked near the coat check area, out of view from the main event. It was as if they wanted me to be there, but also out of sight, as if I was supposed to be present, but not really present. I sat down slowly, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. The weight of the situation felt like a ton of bricks. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just hurt. I didn't understand. I had always put my family first. I helped Claire through thick and thin, even when I didn't get the recognition I deserved. I had been there for every milestone, every celebration, every need. But now, I was a second-class citizen at my sister's wedding. As I sat there, my mind raced back to all the times I had been overlooked. The countless birthdays, holidays, and family gatherings where Claire was the center of attention. She was the one who got the praise, the compliments, the admiration. And me, I was the one who kept quiet, always in the background, always helping, always offering, but never receiving the same care in return. This time, it felt like I had finally been pushed too far. The frustration began to bubble up, but I quickly suppressed it. I couldn't ruin Claire's day. I couldn't make a scene. She was happy, and I would force myself to be happy for her. At least that's what I kept telling myself. I pulled out my phone, trying to distract myself, but the screen remained blank. No messages, no calls, just emptiness. My family didn't even notice I wasn't inside. Or maybe they did, and they simply didn't care. It wasn't until I saw Claire through the door, walking past the hallway, that I snapped out of my thoughts. She looked radiant, like a queen in her flowing white dress, surrounded by people who adored her. She was talking and laughing with a group of her friends when her eyes caught mine. For a split second, she seemed to hesitate. But then her smile returned, and she waved at me with all the grace and charm I had grown used to seeing. "Hey, Nicole, you doing okay out here?" she asked, her voice sweet, but there was something about her tone that didn't quite match the words. It felt rehearsed, like she was saying what was expected of her. I forced a smile, not wanting to stir up anything on her special day. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just enjoying the view," I lied. Claire nodded, but there was no real warmth in her gaze. "Great. Well, don't be out here too long. The reception will start soon. You should come inside when you get the chance. We're saving the best for last." Her words, meant to be encouraging, stung. The best for last. That was me, wasn't it? The afterthought. The one who was always there when needed but never quite belonged. "Of course, Claire," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She gave me one last glance before turning away, disappearing into the crowd. And just like that, I was left alone again, in the hallway, watching everyone else live the life I had always wanted, but was never given. I tried to push the anger down, but it was hard. Every part of me wanted to scream, to demand why I was always the one pushed to the side, why my efforts never seemed to matter. I glanced back at the doors, where Claire had just walked through. And then, for the first time in a long while, I realized something. Something that hit me hard, deep in my chest. This wedding wasn't just about her, it was about me too. And I wasn't gonna let myself be invisible anymore. I sat in the hallway, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. The laughter from the reception hall echoed in the distance, each sound reminding me of how out of place I felt. I tried to busy myself with my phone, but the screen remained silent. I wasn't expecting any calls, but a part of me still checked it every few minutes. Nothing. It wasn't until the door to the banquet hall creaked open again that I looked up. It was my mom. She stood there, a faint smile on her lips, but her eyes, those tired, worn eyes, were all too familiar. The same eyes I had seen for years, eyes that looked past me, even when I was right in front of her. Nicole, she said, her voice gentle. Everything okay out here? I nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, Mom, just taking it all in. She glanced at me for a moment, lingering longer than usual, before stepping into the hallway and sitting down next to me. I was surprised. This was the first time today she had actually come to check on me. She sat quietly for a moment before her voice broke the silence. You look different, she said, her eyes studying me with a mixture of concern and something else I couldn't quite place. Are you sure you're okay? You're not upset about the seating, are you? The question caught me off guard. I hadn't expected her to bring it up, but at the same time, I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. I could feel the words building in my throat, ready to spill out, but I held them back. I had always been the quiet one, the one who didn't complain, who always stayed calm no matter what. But now I wasn't sure I could stay silent anymore. I took a deep breath. Mom, it's not just about the seat. It's everything. It's about how I've always been in the background, how I've spent years helping Claire, always trying to be the good daughter. And now, I'm stuck out here, forgotten. Her face softened, but there was a hint of defensiveness in her eyes. You know we didn't mean for it to be like this, Nicole. It's just that there are so many people to accommodate, and Claire's guests are, well, special. She glanced down at her hands. I clenched my fists, trying to control the rising tide of emotion. Special. Yeah, Claire's always been special, hasn't she? I didn't mean for the bitterness to slip into my voice, but it did. But what about me, Mom? Why am I always second? Why am I the one who helps, who sacrifices, but never gets anything in return? My mom looked away, uncomfortable, her fingers fiddling with the hem of her dress. You know I love you, Nicole. We all do. You're our daughter. But Claire, she's going through a lot. You can't expect everything to be about you all the time. I was stunned. Claire's going through a lot? What about me, Mom? I've been through things too. I've been the one who picked up the pieces every time something went wrong. I've been the one who paid the bills when things got tight, who covered expenses when there was no money. But nobody notices me, do they? My mom fell silent. The words hung between us, heavy and unspoken. For a moment, I thought maybe she would apologize. Maybe she would finally see what I had been trying to tell her for years. But instead, she sighed and looked away, as if the conversation was too much to handle. I just don't want to cause any drama, Nicole, she murmured. Claire's day is supposed to be perfect. Let's not make it about anything else. I felt the anger surge within me, but I forced myself to swallow it. I had spent my whole life being the peacemaker, the one who kept the family together, the one who smiled and nodded even when it hurt. But today, I couldn't do it anymore. I'm not trying to cause drama, Mom. I'm trying to make you see me. I'm trying to make you see that I matter too. The silence that followed was thick, uncomfortable. She stood up, brushing off her dress. I think you should just go back inside, honey. It's not worth it. We're all here to have a good time. Don't let this ruin it. Her words hit me like a slap. I looked at her, my eyes searching for something, anything that showed she understood. But I saw nothing. She wasn't going to change. Not today, not ever. I stood up and gave her a tight smile. I'll be fine, Mom. Don't worry about me. She nodded, but I saw the hesitation in her eyes as she turned and walked back toward the ballroom. I watched her go, my heart heavy with the realization that I would never be enough. Not for her. Not for Claire. Not for anyone. As the door to the reception hall closed behind her, I pulled out my phone, feeling a need to reach out to someone, anyone, who might understand. But then I saw it. A message from my dad. It was brief, just a simple request. Nicole, the electric bill is due. Can you take care of it this month? My heart sank. After everything I had done, after all the sacrifices, the first thing my dad thought to text me was another request for money. I could feel the tears welling up, but I held them back. I wasn't going to let them see me cry. Not today. I typed a response, trying to keep my voice calm despite the tightness in my chest. Dad, I can't. I've done enough. I'm done. I hit send and stared at the screen for a moment, my finger hovering over the send button again. But I didn't press it. I wasn't going to back down this time. I stood in the hallway for what felt like an eternity after sending the text to my dad. The silence surrounding me was deafening. The soft hum of the music and laughter from the reception seemed to grow distant, as though I was hearing it through a tunnel. I didn't want to be a part of that world anymore. Not the world where I was expected to keep giving, keep sacrificing, without a single thank you or acknowledgement. I had made the decision. I was done. The realization hit me with full force. I had spent my entire life trying to make them proud, trying to fit into a family that never truly saw me. Not really. They saw my abilities, my willingness to help, my reliability, but they never saw me. I was exhausted, and not just physically, though the late nights and endless financial support had drained me mentally and emotionally too. But it was the invisible exhaustion that weighed on me. The exhaustion from always being the one who picked up the pieces, the one who fixed things. I felt like a ghost in my own family. I needed space. I needed to stop. But as I stood there, my fingers still clutching my phone, my mind raced. Could I really walk away from everything? My entire identity had been built around helping them, around being the dependable daughter, the one who could be counted on no matter what. But who was I without that? The soft chime of my phone snapped me from my thoughts. A new message from my dad. Nicole, we really need your help. This house. The payment's overdue. The mortgage is piling up. We can't manage without you. Please, we've always counted on you. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the screen. A part of me wanted to cave, to send the money, just like I had always done. But another part of me, the part I hadn't listened to in years, told me to stop. To put an end to this cycle of obligation. I thought of all the years spent paying bills, handling repairs, sending money for groceries, and never once being asked how I was doing. I thought of how Brandon had failed again and again, but was always met with excuses and forgiveness. I thought of how my mom had barely acknowledged my achievements, and how my dad had never once thanked me for all the financial support. And I was tired. I wiped the tear that had started to fall, realizing I hadn't even noticed it until now. It was a tear of frustration, not sadness, a tear that finally marked the end of a long road. I wasn't going to let guilt control me anymore. I knew the consequences of walking away. They would blame me. They would make me the villain. But for once, I didn't care. I was tired of being the fixer. I was tired of being invisible. I deleted the message without replying. The thought of what might come next made my stomach churn. My family would be angry, hurt, confused. But I couldn't go on like this. I had to set boundaries, healthy ones, ones that protected my sanity, my peace of mind. I stood there for a moment longer, taking a deep breath. This was it. The point of no return. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to feel. Relief, fear, guilt. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to keep sacrificing myself for people who didn't even see me as a person, but a lifeline. I finally took one last look at the phone, then walked back toward the exit. My footsteps felt oddly light, almost as if the weight that had been crushing me for years had suddenly lifted. When I reached the door, I paused, my hand resting on the handle. I had to decide. Was I really ready to leave? Without looking back, I stepped outside into the cool night air. The world around me was peaceful, quiet, in sharp contrast to the chaos I had left behind. I couldn't help but feel that this moment, this choice, was the first step in something big. Something I had been too scared to do before. I started the car and drove away from the place I had tried to call home, leaving behind the expectations, the demands, the never-ending cycle of disappointment. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but I had made my choice. I thought I would feel a sense of liberation, of release from years of pressure and self-sacrifice. But as I drove farther from my parents' house, my mind was full of doubts. I was in unfamiliar territory, and the weight of what I'd just done felt heavier than I had imagined. My phone buzzed again. I picked it up reluctantly. Another message from Dad. My heart sank as I saw his name light up on the screen. "Nicole, where are you? We need to talk. This is serious. The bank's sending us a final notice. Please, we can't handle this without you. You're the only one who can help. You have to help." The desperation in his message was evident. For a moment, I considered calling back, reconsidering. But then I remembered all the times I had been asked to step in, all the times they'd relied on me without ever asking if I needed anything in return. I didn't respond. I turned off my phone and focused on the road ahead, the dim street lights flashing by in a blur. I spent the night in a small hotel on the outskirts of the city. My mind racing. It was strange, being alone in a place that wasn't home, but somehow it felt peaceful. I had no idea what the next few days would bring, but I knew one thing. I couldn't go back. By the time the sun rose the next morning, I was exhausted, but a part of me felt like I was finally starting to breathe again. The constant worry, the endless obligations, the guilt, it was all behind me now. The phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Brandon. "Why are you avoiding us? What's going on? We're all really worried about you. Please talk to us." I stared at the screen for a long time before typing a response. I didn't want to explain myself. I didn't owe them an explanation. But I knew Brandon was hurting. He didn't understand. "I'm not avoiding you," I wrote. "I'm just taking some time for myself. I can't keep doing this anymore. I need to focus on my own life." I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the send button. The weight of the words, the finality of them, hit me hard. But I knew it was the right thing to do, so I pressed send. Hours later, I checked my phone again. A message from Mom. "Nicole, you've made your point. Please come home. I don't know what you want from us, but we're family. Don't make us beg." The guilt crept back, slowly. Was I being too harsh? But then I remembered the years of being used, of putting everyone else's needs before my own. I had always been the one who helped. But no one had ever helped me in return. I looked out the hotel window, the early morning sun casting a soft glow on the streets below. The weight of the decision still lingered, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had control. I didn't reply to Mom's message. The next few days were filled with tension. My phone rang constantly, but I ignored the calls. I didn't want to listen to the pleading, the guilt, the accusations. They were all looking at me like I was the villain for setting boundaries. But in truth, I had been living in a role I didn't want anymore. The reliable daughter, the one who could always be counted on. I had spent years being the savior, the one who always stepped in to fix things. But now I realized it wasn't my job to save them anymore. I had to save myself, but the silence was deafening. My parents' calls, Brandon's texts, the unanswered messages, they all weighed on me, even though I knew deep down that walking away was the only way to move forward. 3 days later, I received a voicemail from Dad. I hesitated before playing it, my fingers trembling slightly as I tapped the screen. "Nicole, we've sold some things. We're working on getting the money together, but we need you. Your mother's not doing well. We can't fix this without you." The words were like a punch to the gut. Mom's health? I didn't know what to think anymore. The emotional manipulation, the guilt, it was all starting to feel like a cycle I couldn't break. I thought of all the times I had been the one who had to pick up the pieces, the one who had to save the day. But now it was time for them to stand on their own. I didn't respond. I couldn't. And as much as I felt the familiar pull of guilt, I had to keep reminding myself that I had given enough. I had spent my entire life trying to make everyone else's problems my own. But it was time to stop. Time to live for me. A week passed. The texts, the calls, the messages, they kept coming. Each one tugged at my heart, but the more they piled up, the stronger my resolve became. I had taken a step away from everything I'd known, and now, more than ever, I needed to honor that decision. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when I checked my phone for the first time in a while. The message from Mom was waiting for me, but there was something different about it. "Nicole, we miss you. I know we've hurt you, and I'm sorry for that. But you've always been the strong one. Please come home. Your father's in bad shape, and we really need you." I stared at the screen, the words echoing in my mind. "We really need you." It was always the same refrain. They needed me, but it was never about me. It was always about what I could do for them. I set the phone down and turned my attention back to the window. The rain drummed against the glass, a soothing rhythm that matched my thoughts. A deep part of me wanted to go back. It felt like the right thing to do, to return to the place where I was always needed. But then I reminded myself, they didn't need me. They needed the idea of me, the version of me who could fix everything. And I couldn't be that person anymore. That evening, as I walked back to my small apartment, the weight of everything I had left behind still pressed on me. There were moments of doubt, times when the guilt tried to creep in, whispering that I was abandoning my family in their time of need. But I was slowly coming to terms with the fact that it wasn't my responsibility to carry their burdens anymore. I took a deep breath as I unlocked the door to my apartment. It was small, simple, and clean, but it was mine. I stepped inside, the silence wrapping around me like a warm blanket. The only sounds were my own footsteps and the hum of the refrigerator. It was a far cry from the chaos of my old life, but for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I sat down at my kitchen table and pulled out a notebook. It was a habit I'd formed years ago when I wanted to process my thoughts. Writing things down helped me see them more clearly. I opened the page, the pen resting lightly in my hand, and I began to write. I've spent my whole life trying to prove my worth. I thought if I kept helping, kept sacrificing, they would see me. But I've realized something. My worth isn't tied to what I can do for them. It's tied to who I am. I paused, my pen hovering over the page. It felt like the first time I'd truly spoken my truth. I wasn't just helping people because it was expected. I was doing it because I thought it would make me worthy of love, of approval. But that wasn't love. That was dependence. The next morning, I woke up early. The apartment was quiet, and the sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows on the floor. It was peaceful here. No pressure, no constant demands, just the space to breathe and think. I grabbed my coffee and sat by the window, watching the city slowly wake up. It was still hard to believe I had walked away, but as the days passed, the sharpness of the decision softened, and I started to feel something I hadn't in years: freedom. Later that day, as I was going through some old paperwork, a familiar name appeared on the screen. It was Brandon. "Nicole, I've been thinking about everything. I know you're hurt and I can't fix that. But we can still be a family. We need you. Please don't leave us forever." I read the message twice, trying to decipher the emotion behind it. "We need you." The words hit me like a slap, but this time there was no guilt. There was no pressure. I had to remember that I wasn't just a solution to their problems. I was a person, and I needed to start living for myself. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. It wasn't the relief of fixing everything or making everyone happy. It was the relief of knowing that I could finally choose myself, that I wasn't bound by the weight of other people's expectations. But there was still one final step. I needed to tell them. I sat down and typed a message to my parents in Brandon. I took my time, choosing my words carefully. "I know this may hurt, and I'm sorry if it does. But I can't keep living for you. I have to live for myself. I love you, but I can't keep carrying your burdens. I'm letting go. I need to take care of me." I hesitated for a moment before pressing send. But when I did, it felt like a weight lifted from my chest. A few days passed without any messages from them. The silence was both unsettling and liberating. I had expected a storm of guilt, regret, or anger, but there was only quiet, no texts, no calls. And for the first time, I realized something. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of everything I had done, because I wasn't the one who needed to apologize. On the 7th day, I received a final message from Dad. It was simple. "I understand now. I'm sorry." I read the message over and over, letting the words sink in. I didn't know if it was the apology I had been waiting for, or if it was just an acknowledgement that things were finally changing. But it didn't matter. What mattered was that I had made the decision to walk away, to let go. And now I was finally free. Let me know your thoughts, and we can start thinking about the next chapter.